Hold on.
The first people, just like Donald Trump, the first people that Nazis went after were trans people and immigrants. And you fail to see the parallels with that.
Do you have a dog?
I do have a dog.
So did Hitler. Are you a
Houdini. I love
Nazi?
him.
Oh my goodness. You have a dog and so did Hitler. Those people back to their country.
He's a liar.
So, okay.
He can't debate, he just
Okay,
lies.
so let's just
What,
calm
you don't
down
like
a little
freedom
bit.
of speech?
Well, I mean, you could say whatever you want if you want to make a fool of yourself, but we do have like 10-year-olds here and 11-year-olds, so can we
don't
have some
care.
decency?
Whatever.
You don't care. You're a typical leftist because you only care about yourself,
Who said I was
not
a
about
leftist?
the other people.
Who said I was a leftist?
I mean, you're just an awful person. I don't think you really want to debate because you're just here to piss people off and energize your crowd of racists.
What have I ever said that's racist?
Oh, what?
Can you name one thing?
I'm
You're gonna
Hispanic and I support Charlie.
Can you name
Does that mean anything?
Can you name a second thing I've ever said that's racist?
I think you're just trying to play a game, and I think this is obviously going to be used.
What
in
have
your
I ever
favor,
said
but
that's
I just want to
hateful?
hate you. You're awful. Get off my campus.
When have I ever said anything that's hateful?
Hello everyone, I have this video from Charlie where he's approached by this liberal, and the way things develop and unfold is shocking. I'll be offering my perspective as we watch. Let's jump into it.
Do you believe that being here in America here is a right or a privilege?
Is a right and a privilege.
You have a right to be here?
Yes, I believe anybody has a right to movement to wherever they want.
So you would get rid of all borders?
Yes.
So when you land from an international flight at JFK Airport, no passport checks?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you for so bluntly telling us your view.
I'm a dirty commie, so yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we have brand new video just in to CNN. It was released by Homeland Security Secretary, the new Secretary, Kristi Noem, and it shows her presence at an immigration raid in New York City overnight. In her words, a criminal alien charged with kidnapping, assault, and burglary is now in custody. Again, she put out this video. With us now is former acting director of ICE, John Sandwig. Thank you so much for being with us. This video released by the secretary, the orders that we reported yesterday that people involved in these raids have been told to wear your jersey so people can see. We want this to be very much visible. Why such a public display, John?
You know, it's very interesting. I mean, first of all, obviously the reason why is I think the administration wants to draw a lot of attention to these raids and these operations. But what's interesting, John, is traditionally you don't want to draw attention to these operations until the operation is complete. And there are two very good reasons for that. The first is officer safety, especially when you're targeting individuals who who should have a nexus to public safety. You don't want to do anything to tip them where they might be lying in wait for an officer, especially if somebody's doing harm. So one of the real cardinal rules of these types of operations is you don't do the publicity until it's complete. But the second reason is it reduces the effectiveness of the operation. As word gets out that you're targeting individuals with a nexus to the criminal justice system, those individuals tend to disappear. So during the Obama administration, when we ran these similar operations, what happens is over time, you start missing more and more of your targets because those individuals are no longer in the location that you expect them because they caught wind of the operation. So surprising in a way from an operational perspective that they're putting this much publicity on these operations, but politically, I think it makes a little bit of sense why they want to do that.
So I think in the last year of the Biden administration, there were an average of about 300 apprehensions each day. It was a slow start in this new Trump administration, but they're now at about 1,000 a day, and that's their target. Besides the difference in the numbers, John, what do you see as the biggest differences in approach between the two administrations so far?
Well, the biggest difference is clearly the targeting. This administration has lowered the threshold for when, prior to one of these operations, a lot of work goes in, John, behind the scenes. The agency is running records from the criminal justice system, probation and parole records, cross-referencing that against immigration databases to try to identify the targets. This is a tactic that was done throughout ICE's history, the Obama administration and the Biden administration included. But what happens is when you're doing that, you set a threshold. What type of crime is a serious crime that we're going to prioritize? Are we going to arrest what we call collaterals, individuals that we encounter when we're going after the criminal who may not have any nexus to the criminal justice system? So the Trump administration has lowered the threshold, including individuals charged with less serious offenses like traffic offenses or people who have not been convicted. Secondly, they've been very clear that when they go to a house, if they find anybody who's undocumented there, everyone will be arrested, regardless of whether or not they have any nexus to the criminal justice system.
In a society without religion, everything would become acceptable to those who choose to live by their own standards, without the checks and balances provided by religious teachings that emphasize love, respect, compassion, and accountability. The understanding of right and wrong would no longer be anchored in universal principles. Just think about it. Or of the belief of a higher power or a moral lawgiver. Just think about it. Instead, it would be entirely subjective, with each individual deciding what actions are justified or ethical based on their own personal feelings or desires. Can you imagine that? I know to some people, they may view this as a freedom of expression, but it will lead to moral chaos. It will lead to moral chaos, as different people could easily justify harmful behavior simply because it aligns with their own self-interest.
I think that there are more pressing issues than the Trump administration talks about. He talks about there's a lot more to it than what the Trump administration
What
is
could be
saying,
more
which is
pressing
very-
than nuclear war? Seriously, we are on the verge of a nuclear war with Russia. What could be more pressing than that?
I agree, but
What could be more pressing than
I
having...
think that women being sexually assaulted on the daily in America is a bigger problem than abortions.
So President Trump
You
has talked
interrupted
about
me.
it so much that you know how much he talks about it? We no longer have rapists coming across the southern border that will prowl on this campus and go after women. Come up to the mic. So now we know that you're like a blatant narcissist that needs attention at all times to cut in line. Tell us what's so pressing that you needed to interrupt us before he could even talk.
So, let's talk about the 200 people deported without due process to El Salvador. I don't know if you saw this morning, but a United States citizen was actually deported.
It was not a U.S. citizen. That's not correct.
Liar.
It's not a U.S. citizen. It was
What?
actually...
Come on.
No, it was someone that was living here. Yeah, it was not a U.S. citizen.
Hey, this guy just fucking lies. It's not.
No.
Hey, no. You wanna have a debate, but you don't.
It was
debate.
not a U.S. citizen, first of all.
You wanna have a debate, but you actually don't debate. There's nothing more ill-faith than this.
So
No, you're not.
we already have a mic.
Name two times. Name two times where you've changed
Show me you're losing without telling me you're losing.
What? So you're just gonna lie?
Well, first of all, it's not a U.S. citizen. He was living here for a while. He was part of MS-13. Answer yes or no.
Okay.
Should members of a terrorist organization be able to stay in the United States after they've murdered and gone after
No,
American citizens?
obviously no.
So we have deported those people back to their country.
He's a liar.
So, okay.
He can't debate. He just
Okay,
lies.
so let's just
What,
calm
you don't
down
like
a little
freedom
bit.
of speech?
Well, I mean, you could say whatever you want if you want to make a fool of yourself, but we do have like 10-year-olds here and 11-year-olds, so can we
don't
have some
care.
decency?
Whatever.
Okay, you don't care. You're a typical leftist because you only care about yourself,
Who said I was
not
a
about
leftist?
the other people.
Who said I was a leftist?
Well, it's very clear by how you're...
Well, talk to me more about what you just called collaterals, because Tom Homan said, quote, I don't think we arrested any families. We've arrested public safety threats and national security threats, bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes when you're doing these operations, you knock on a door, and you're looking for a certain individual. You may or may not find that individual there, but you often find that someone's living with other undocumented people. So group homes are very common, where you have multiple families living in the same house, or you might find that person's family unit there. Traditionally, during the Obama administration, we would direct ICE that unless the individual you encounter has a nexus to public safety, you don't take them into custody. This administration has been clear they are arresting collaterals. John, look, in the coming weeks, we're going to see the data related to who was arrested in these raids. And it'll be very interesting to see what types of crimes the people were arrested for and how many individuals were arrested without a nexus to any criminal history at all. Just knowing how ICE operations work, knowing the limited number of high-value targets that there are, I'm very confident that we'll see a lot of individuals who were arrested after having been charged with or maybe convicted of what would commonly be considered lower-level offenses, and a lot of these collaterals were arrested, individuals with no nexus to the criminal justice system at all.
And you think we'll see that data?
Yeah, I think, look, historically, ICE does release that data, including during the Trump administration. And John, again, it's just very illustrative. If you look at the Trump administration data, in 2019, prior to COVID, they arrested something like 63,000 individuals who were just charged with or convicted of traffic offenses. And the bottom line, John, is, again, there's just not that many of these good targets out there. But really, that raises another question, which is what's next? And you heard Tom Homan say, this is going to continue. We want to continue at this tempo through the full year. And I'm going to be very interested to seeing what type of targeting, who they start prioritizing after they exhaust this criminal population.
The world may reject truth, but we must remain steadfast in our commitment to it. Telling the truth is not an act of hatred. No, but it's an act of courage and faith. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we must speak truth in love, not to harm, but to bring understanding and healing and light to the darkness. Even in the face of opposition, we can trust that God is with us and He will give us the strength to stand firm, ladies and gentlemen. Amen.
My dad wanted me to ask you, he said, would you still be a white supremacist if you were in a more diverse work field?
Do you think I'm a white supremacist?
I have no idea if you're a white supremacist. My dad has watched a lot of you. He said if you weren't out here preaching hate and working on your three-pointers, do you think you would probably be better at that?
You should be ashamed of your father.
I'm definitely not. My father's an amazing man.
Yeah.
He cares about American citizens.
Your father
and all
peddles
of their rights.
lies. I'm not a white supremacist. Honestly, shame on him. For someone that runs an organization called Blexit, do you even know what Blexit is?
I do not.
It's literally, we employ 40 black Americans that work in Atlanta, Chicago, and Philadelphia, trying to improve the well-being of inner-city black America. What has your father ever done for inner-city black America other than call me a white supremacist? And by the way, secondly, it's just so ridiculous. It's like it's
black
somehow
people for your companies or whatever you do does not make you a
so
white supremacist.
What is a white supremacist?
A white supremacist is somebody who takes advantage and believes that they are higher than everybody else.
Do I believe that?
I have no idea.
Okay, exactly. And so there's no evidence whatsoever, and yet people go around sloppily saying, you're a racist, you're a white supremacist. It is so destructive to our dialogue. It's destructive to us coming together as a country, and there's nothing to support it whatsoever. So thank you for your time, and shame on your father for peddling that crap.
Hello, guys. My name is Joey. I brought my father with me. He's a very liberal father.
Our family's divided. We're divided the same way the nation is divided.
I'm conservative, by the way.
Will anything ever be remedied? A nation divided against itself will not stand, neither will a family divided against itself.
Why do you think your son is conservative?
I have no clue. I'll let him answer that question.
That's a bad answer. Hold on a second. You as a father should listen to your son.
I listen to him all the time.
Hold on, but then you just said you don't know.
I don't know where he went so bad. I mean, come on. It's like, I don't know where he went wrong. I don't know how he went off the rails.
Would the smarter of the two like to chime in here? Yeah.
Absolutely. So I used to be, at one point, on my father's side. Upon doing my own research and seeing things firsthand, I've switched sides. We talk every day about politics to the point where it's divided us. And so for him to say that he does not know where I stand is...
So let me ask you, do you think that maybe he wants to believe government will do good? Maybe that's...
Of course. Okay.
Now maybe your son is going more conservative because he thinks government hasn't done a lot of good. Is that maybe a fair charitable interpretation?
That makes relative sense.
Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. Here's what I'll just say in closing, guys. Never let politics get in the way of the beautiful relationship between father and son. My advice first is for the son to the father, understand he comes from a different generational perspective. He thinks government is probably a good force. Now your son, understandably, is seeing it harder than ever to own a home. He's seen a border wide open. He's seen lies from politicians. He's seen the enrichment of the ruling class. And instead of interrupting and want to get in an edge, smartly be like, maybe my son is processing a way that I might not agree with, but he's growing up in a different circumstance than I ever.
In John 15 verse 18, Jesus Christ, He told us, if the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. This is a powerful reminder that we are not alone in facing rejection or persecution for standing up for what is right, ladies and gentlemen. Literally, Jesus experienced hatred, opposition because of the truth that He shared. Yes, and His followers too also face similar challenges. You see? So however, we should not be discouraged. Never. Instead, we can find comfort in knowing that we are walking in His footsteps. In summary, preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ is an incredibly worthwhile mission. It brings about transformation, fosters love, hope, justice, truth, and brings about God's divine command. It grants eternal significance, brings deep joy to those who embrace it. Ultimately, it's the greatest gift we can offer, bringing lasting change to individuals and communities alike, and reflecting God's love and purpose for the world, ladies and gentlemen. So, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to click on the next one. Don't forget to like, to comment, and subscribe. I'll see you again next time. Bye bye for now.